Let's start the second session. Let's do for selection. It's my honor to chair the second session in today's conference. I was nervously prepared what I'm going to say as the chair. So at the beginning, I'd like to share this beautiful sentence I got yesterday from my university back when I was doing PhDs. Just to adapt to the situation. Academics of universities has always been shaped by people who see things differently. And great minds don't think alike. And that's why breakthroughs happens. So hopefully we are not targeting to reach any consensus for this workshop, but lived debates and thoughts. And then Peter has mentioned about DeepSeek. I guess that's just one example why different economy can be a treasure for human beings. We think differently. The situation are differently. The countries are differently. And China, in this case, is such a big country. The scale of it means there's so many people are able to do innovations in a different approach that could have this tremendous spillover effects or exemplary effects to other countries. Because for me, I've been in Australia for 10 years. A lot of times I say, oh, I start to think like Australians, but I also miss that part. I don't want to give up the parts that I understand what Chinese culture has brought me up to think in their different ways. Okay. And then I also like to share about the concept of innovation and why to understand China could be important. Yesterday, there's a news in this small noodle machine maker manufactured in China. Actually, people find out they produce airplanes in a cheap price, and everyone was shocked. So that is not say every noodle makers can do that, right? It's just like because there's so many of all these small business entrepreneurs and technicians, they might come up with wonderful ideas and more maybe to give us some hope that things can be done differently. And in that essence, the application of technology, whether it's AI or other things, actually depends in a lot of sense to benefit our human beings is how we apply them, how we adopt them, and the application and adoption to use. To a main sense, the software of WeChat or Alipay is not because it's difficult to code the software. It's difficult to attract people to use them. And for people, human beings, to make the decision, I'm going to use Alipay or WeChat instead of credit card or instead of cash, that decision is made by human beings, by human beings with their own culture, right? So one of the things that always I'm thinking about in China, we use red bag, if you know what that means, right? And WeChat has this wonderful thing you can just distribute randomly or with whatever functions, but that is not to be seen in Australia or maybe in US. And I question myself, what exactly they have been utilizing in developing that function. That certainly is not about how to code. That's about their understanding of that society, of that culture. So that is what I saw in this theme of this session. The digital technologies and its application in the Chinese economy. The application could be one of the things determines what our society are going to be shared. And I do approach this topic with a sense of urgency because I do really see how young people are using softwares I'm not using. And I feel left behind. And I'm wondering what we are doing as a group. It's not about how to make today's universe better. It's probably for what in 20, 30 years seems at least I'm not going to disaster, right? Just be better somehow, right? But this younger generation, right, how they forming their mind, their culture, how culture. So there's so many things on me, and I was feeling this urgency. And hopefully, our speakers here from China can share some of their perspectives on the topic of application. Okay, let's start.
Dear professors, I'm Liu Cheng from the Chinese Academy of Social Science. It's my honor to give a speech here. This is my first time to coming to Australia. The scenery is beautiful and the climate is comfortable. Today, the topic of my speech is artificial intelligence and China's modernized industrial system. Recently, the development of AI is very fast globally, especially in China and America. There are four parts. Artificial intelligence drives economic paradigm shift. Artificial intelligence defines the level of modernization. Artificial intelligence can shape or modernize the industrial system, create favorable conditions for AI to drive the modernization of industrial system. Background. Side AI opportunities to build a modernized industrial system. President Xi Jinping emphasized AI as a strategic technology leading the new round of technological revolution and industrial transformation has profoundly changed the way humans produce and live. The Party Central Committee attached great importance to the development of AI and have approved top-level design and strengthened implementation efforts in recent years, thereby drawing a holistic and systematic advantage of the country's comprehensive AI strengths. The first part, artificial intelligence drives economic paradigm shift. Technology economic paradigm theory. Each industrial revolution starts with new technologies applied in core industry, which then spreads through industrial interactions to form scientific cluster. Validated. The new paradigm is widely adopted and developed into a systemic model in the whole society. Today, the force of the new round of technology revolution and industrial transformation driven by artificial intelligence will be no less than that of previous industrial revolution, and its impact on industrial system will be profound too. China's programs. AI has transformed from a technological revolution to an industrial transformation driven by technological innovation and application, the rise of intelligence industries, and the empower of traditional sector. Part 2. Artificial intelligence determines the level of modernization. Technological revolution drove industrial modernization in history. 18th century Britain, 19th century America, and post-World War II Japan all made major advances in economic structure, living standards, and education and culture through industrial revolution. Technological demand industrial modernization level. In global scientific economic history, the first three industrial revolutions successfully driven by mechanization, electrification, and automation, boosted in the development of lots of industry. AI determines present and future industrial modernization level as a present and future revolutionary technology. It will determine the level of modernization that China can achieve in the future. Part 3. Artificial intelligence has shaped modernized industrial systems. The intelligent industry form the leading good effect. President Xi Jinping invoked the lead goods effect to stress that AI is a strategic technology spearheading this wave of scientific and industrial transformation. Building on this strategic emphasis, China's open source AI models such as DeepSeek, Kailin, and Kailin are already powering supply chains to both domestically and internationally. A Stanford University report early this year has shown that China is closing the gap with the United States in the development of cutting-edge AI models. There are several key data. In 2024, China's AI industrial scale exceeded 700 billion. AI-related enterprises up 36% year-to-year. In the half past year, generative AI users hit 515 million, up 100% in 6 months. Daily token consumption surged over 300 times in 18 months. It's very fast. AI plus employment and the new intelligent integration of traditional industry. AI empowerment pathways for traditional industry, embedding new intelligent services with traditional industrial chains to provide data collection and analysis services for enterprises along the chain, thereby enhancing the efficiency of resource allocation across the chain. Expand the boundary of industrial system, such as a smart vehicle, deepening of real intelligent integration. In the era of digital economy, technology is mainly used for transaction and communication, such as Alibaba and WeChat. Intelligent technology is increasingly focusing on manufacturing and production-oriented services. In the half past year, industrial and service robots output up 35.6%, 25.5% year-to-year, respectively. Currently, China has 421 national-level smart manufacturing demo factories with AI applied in 500 industrial signal platforms. Create favorable conditions for AI to drive the modernization of industrial systems. In that technology is necessary, but not sufficient condition requiring support from 4 key factors to drive the industrialization of AI. The first is data. We should further support development of fundamental and specialized databases in the field of AI, expanding the scope of public data provision for AI application. Encourage and guide relevant entities to undertake the collection, storage, and trading of high-quality data, alongside collaborative research and development with AI technology. To solve requirements such as algorithm design, model training, and signal-based application. The second is requirement and facility. Further accelerate the research and development of intelligent equipment, overcome bottleneck technology in areas such as chips and GPUs. Morgan Stanley predicts that China's self-sufficiency rate for artificial intelligence GPU will surge from 34% in 2024 to 82% by 2027. The third is fully unleash market forces. Only through the power of market can technology be transformed into large-scale industry. Accelerate the development of key industry where AI technology is relatively mature. Industrial linkage is high and synergies are strong, which are industrial such as industrial robot, smart vehicle, and low altitude economy. The last one is reform social revolutions. On the one hand, removing institutional constraints on the development of artificial intelligence. On the other hand, the new rules should be established to safeguard personal privacy, data security, and international security. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for being here. I'm from Nankai University. Here you see my name on the screen. Today I'm going to share some okay, thank you. My recent thinking on the new policies in the new economy. Some people call it data economy. Some people data as data economy. Whatever, and I think we share the same view that we live in new age, new era, and everything is changing. Sorry for the noise. Okay, that's better, right? Yeah, digital technology sometimes fails us. But hopefully, we will find at the end of the day we can fix out some way to get out of the problems. And so, do we need any new policies in the new economy? So that's my what I want to address. And maybe in the future. But unfortunately, I'm not going to address all the problems listed in this lecture. I hope it's a process of solving these problems. Every time we come to the crossroad of the human civilization, we need a long time to fix up the problem. Before everyone can benefit from civilization, from advances in technologies. So The questions I asked are very simple. What are so we know that we need policies because sometimes market fails us for some people or for the human being as a whole. For example, trade policy. As economists, we know that free trade or free market is good for everyone on average, but sometimes it's bad for some people. Like trade policy. Opening up trade will benefit the country as a whole, but some people, some factors we lose in the process of trade. Sometimes even the whole economy, the globe may benefit from free trade. Some countries may lose from free trade. So are there new reasons for policy innovations in the data or the digital economy? So the first and the second, I also want to ask some positive questions. Is there any relationship between the policy changes we see in the world, like the trade protectionism on behalf of the US? Are these related to digital technology innovations? And when we talk about policies, I'm not only talk about the internal inward policies. I will also talk about external policies, like trade policies. Okay. So why might market fail in the data economy? There are many externalities in the data economy. For example, the externality associated with the data, they are within firm externality. So what does this mean? It means if a firm is bigger, it can accumulate more data, and it will, with the help of AI technology, it can be more efficient. So in the data economy, a firm needs to be big to be efficient. But on the other side, when the firm becomes a bigger guy, it will exploit the workers, the consumers. It will exert high influence on everyone. So do you expect or want the firm to be bigger or smaller? If it is bigger, it will be more efficient. But it will also bring negative influences. So the wage may be compressed. People may become unemployed if the firm uses extensively AI. So imagine that if our economy is manufactured or governed by only one firm in the whole world, if there is only one firm, if all the jobs are taken place, replaced by AIs, what can we do? We have no jobs. So what would our future be? So that's the problem, to be or not to be. The second externality, I call it between firm externality. When a firm accumulates some data, it can share with other firms. When this sharing occurs, every firm can benefit from this externality. But in practice, not all firms succeed in the process of digitalization, especially for those small firms. Yes, there are firms very successful in the process of digital transformation, but many firms fail in this process, especially for those small to medium-sized enterprises. So why do firms fail in the process of digitalization? Why so few firms adopt the digital technology? So that if there is between firm externality, human nature tells us you would put less effort on this investment because it benefits not only you, but benefit others. But everybody is selfish. They only consider their self-interest. They put less weight on others' utility. So because of the between firm externality, the digitalization can be too low from the perspective of the aggregate utility, average well-being. And the third externality is a between sector externality, as data is a byproduct of the production process. So a bigger production sector means more data for the data sector, right? So there are positive externalities going from the manufacturing sector to the service, to the data processing sector. So because of the between sector externality, we may expect the government to subsidize the production sector to generate more data for the data processing sector. So because of those externalities, we may need to resort to industrial policies, antitrust policies, and redistribution policies. Second, during the process of rapid transformation, the labor market often lag behind. People need time and energy. They need the money to learn to adapt to this process. This process may be very short for the human being, but it can be very long for an individual. Our lifespan only lasts for less than 120 years, and our working time maybe I'm not sure 50 or 30 years. You know, in Huawei, you will be defined as the 35 if you are not succeeding in the firm. So many people are employed at the age of 35, and they graduate from the maybe when they graduate from college, they are around 25. Or so some people are at the year of 30, but after 5 years working at Huawei, they will be fired. So they will retire. So the time span for them in their job, in the workplace can be very short. So the challenge are also big for this person. The third kind of externality are associated with AI. So these externalities can be within cohort. For example, if I develop an AI, it will benefit myself. But you might be hurt from this AI, because what I developed, the aim of this AI is to replace your jobs, not mine. So this is a negative externality. Everyone uses AI for themselves at the cost of other people, right? So if this is the case, there may be too much AI for our generation. So the second externality is the between occupations. So because AI is a general purpose technology. And if one occupation uses AI, the technology can be copied or moved to other occupations. This externality can be negative or positive. And finally, there is an intergenerational externality. So in China, many college students they do the work of data tech. So they will earn a high wage. But when the data tech work is done, they don't need this work anymore. So for the future generations, when they graduate from school, they will find new jobs, because what are the jobs that was done that is in the market are replaced by the AIs. We have these AIs because of the predecessors, because the previous graduate students have developed AI, and when these AI become mature, they don't need these jobs anymore. So these are intergenerational externalities. So many externalities and in many dimensions and in varying degrees of magnitude makes us very difficult, poses challenges for us to make policies. And the fourth problem is that actually we see inefficient AI adoption. Sometimes AI adoption may be too high, and in some cases, the AI adoption may be too low. One example, as I just mentioned, in many cases, AI adoption requires a lot of knowledge. And whether AI adoption will succeed or not is unclear. AI is not some technology. Once you use it, you will become successful or rich. It's uncertain. So also you need to put some effort to learn and learn to work with AIs. And you need to maybe you need to invest in some equipment or invest in human capital or even to change the organization of the firm to adapt with the new technology. So many failures. What does this mean? Actually, we know that if one firm or one work succeeds in using AI, it can share with the others their experience of successful. But no firm would like to do that, right? If you share the technology with others, you might fail in the future. So because of this inadequate sharing, many people tried AI adoption, but many fails. So there are waste of resources because too many we put too much resources in adaptation, in trial and error. And finally, AI development, the transformation from the traditional industrial economy to the digital economy required a lot of resources, including complex. As mentioned in the beginning of this morning's session, and also there are carbon emissions increase during the process of transformation. So with the many opportunities, there are challenges. So we're not sure whether the cost of a digital transformation will finally outweigh the benefit of digitalization. So because of these externalities, we need delicate design and careful implementation of the policies. Due to the time limit, I'm going to go through the details. But one thing I want to mention is that we have many objectives. We have multiple figures of various dimensions, different degrees of magnitude, and in many areas. So, but the policy tools are very limited. And in some cases, these market failures might be tangled together. So we must be very careful in designing policies to make a remedy for these market failures. So far I have focused on the normative side. Now I will take some time to talk about the positive side. 1 minute? So does technological revolution related to protectionism? Yes. Why? We know trade policy is a substitute for monopoly. Trade policy is a tool of rent extraction. This simple observation can link us with the technology revolution with protectionism. So I want to ask one simple question. Why the US embraces trade liberalization in the post-war period, but not now? Why do the US return to protectionism as they do in the 19th century, as the British do in the 18th century? protection is not new. Every country in the process of catching up uses trade policy, industrial policy, right? So make America great again is not invented by Donald Trump. 300 years ago, when Netherlands' role in the world economy is taking place by Great Britain, they say, make Netherlands great again. Check history. Okay? So when the US, so I want to one thing. Trade liberalization, only those with market power, only this strong guy, this big guy has the rights or so they can or they are more prone to use trade liberalization. So I will tell you very simple logic. Trade liberalization has a prerequisite, has a condition. You must have technology power, market power, or military power. This rule fits every country, and when you look back in the history, there's nothing new under the sun. What's happening now has happened in the history. So when you have export market power, I will be as quick as possible. This, okay. When you have market power in the export sector, you can extract rent from other country. So when the US has a market power in the service sector, in the ICT sector, the best policy is to liberalize the manufacturing sector, to import goods from China, then get the rents from China. So in this sense, the US is the landlord. As a landlord, you want the farmers to maximize the product, right? So to summarize, yeah, why protectionism return for the US? Because they are losing market power, right? Due to the competition from China, from Germany. So also there are other reasons why do they need protectionism. The patents has sorry. Yes. I think that's it for my speech. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Yurou. As a PhD candidate in Australia National University, I'm really honored to stand here to share my study. So my topic is the role of the data factor in regional growth through the both theoretical insight and the empirical evidence from China. First question pop up is, why do we care about data? Look back to human history, we actually witnessed the three industrial revolutions. We're standing at the third one, which is known as digital revolution. So the heart of this digital transformation is data. So second question pop up, which is why data can become a factor. To answer this question, we actually need to borrow the definition from Tsai that data factor are a collection of data that can generate economic value. On the left-hand side of this slide, I summarize the mind map of how data factor can impact the economic growth through its own natural property, shown in the blue box. The two of this natural property, namely the non-varying and repeatable and useful, makes the data factor stand out from the traditional production factor. So third question for the background information is why I choose China as a research country. This is because the Chinese policy towards data and digitalization is surged since 2014. But till now, we have around 14 policy issues, and this motivates the Chinese research rise from 90 in 2015 to more than 20,000 in 2024. This multiple literature made me to propose two hypotheses. The first one is the data factor has a general positive effect. The second one is the data factor has a threshold effect, namely it performs differently when the economy reach a certain level of development measured by the GRP per capita or the skill measured by GRP. To quickly review all the results, we fully support hypothesis 1, but partially support the hypothesis 2. So to testing those two hypotheses, we use an empirical strategy, which includes the data factor into the endogenous growth model, and we model the total factor productivity by the science and technology stock and time and regional fixed effect and the other control variables, and using the within estimator to estimate. Then by following Hansen, we apply the panel threshold regression to testing the threshold effect. So the data are much more straightforward because it covered the 570 observations spanning 30 provinces from around 204 to 222. So as you can see, we pick the data traffic as a proxy for the data factor based on the 5V property of the big data framework. And most of these variables are complete through the whole time span, except for the data factor, which only start from the 2014. So because of this missing series of data factor, we only shrinking our data time dimension for the original data set is from 2014 to 2024 to 2022. But it's still robustness because after combining different combination of control variables, it seems that the elasticity of data factor is still positive and stable magnitude, and also the statistically significant. It's around only like 0.050. So it's a forward hypothesis 1. But for the hypothesis 2, we use the both indicator as GRP per capita or total GRP. The p-value is so high, so we reach in favor of rejecting the hypothesis 2. But is that the end of the story? I would say no, because this 9 years window is too short. So even we cannot detect any threshold effect in this period, maybe we cannot take as the evidence for this such dynamic effect do not exist in the longer period. So this motivates me to think about explore the machine learning method to impute the data factor to the pre-2014 period. So leveraging the 5 additional internet development indicator, I use the best performance machine learning method based on the compare for the predict value and true value in the testing data set, as the show is central of these 3 figure. The best model is using the autoencoder and the extra tree model, but here we list the augment data set for data factor over 30 provinces for the whole timeline. This indicates that machine learning model not only can be used in the typical big data test, but also it can be used in this cross-sectional and multi-regression panel. And this provides enough information for machine learning model can capture the patterns that cannot be captured in the traditional model. So with this data set in hand, we can re-estimate the model again. At the left-hand side, we still continue to support hypothesis 1, and in the right-hand side, we, in contrast than before, we actually support hypothesis 2 because we identify the threshold effect by using the total GRP, and the identified cutoff value is negative 0.0671. So write down the whole model is a bit explicitly, we can clearly compare the elasticity between the factor. It's showing that below the threshold, the elasticity is 0.21. It indicates that additional data use have a significant payoff compared to the both physical and human capital. And above this threshold, the elasticity is insignificant, indicates the diminished marginal returns. And because we already identified the cutoff value, we can map back to see which province in China and in which year actually fall below this cutoff. An interesting pattern shown off if we take a closer look to 2005 and 2022 version. This is because 2005, the lagging area is concentrated on the central of the China, which corresponds to the rise of central China in that period. But in the 2022, it's actually lagging area has become the three municipalities and the northeast province, which correspond to severe pandemic shock. So with this result in hand, we can actually conclude the policy implication in the two dimensions. For the lagging area, the priority is to ensure that fundamental digital capability is present and productively used, such as building the digital infrastructure or facilitate the adoption of digital tools. And for living area, in a different ways that the binding constraint is the ability to turn data factor into more productivity. So the policy is to focus on the digitalization of traditional production factors, such as strengthen the digital skills and upgrading the technology infrastructure. So, but more importantly, to identify whether the area is lagging or leading is dynamic, because it's relative to its own region trend or the trend or the region in the same year. So I will, in conclusion, a summary by the contribution and limitation. And for the contribution, conceptually, the study clarifies that data can operate as a production factor. Empirically, it proves that data factor can be a part of a growth model that can positively affect a Chinese regional growth. And the study also implies a machine learning model to extend the time dimension in the panel, which improves the ability to identify the dynamic effect. And also, it's used data traffic as a proxy for the data factor, which capture the volume and velocity in the big data frame. So even we have some limitation for the limit causal identification or simplify proxy measurement, it still provide a normal way for incorporating the digitalization into the growth model, and we know how to analyze the digitalization impact on the Chinese regional economic growth. So if you don't know what I just said for all the mathematical equation, I think one sentence you can remember, which is, so whenever the region fall behind its own trend or relative to other in the same year, the digitalization can be a good helper. So this is all of my presentation. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, questions.
Three very interesting presentations. Thank you for that. One question for Yongjin from Nankai. To be or not to be, but first I challenge your general implication that free trade is good for the strongest powers and by implication not for the others. Open trade was very good for China when it was much weaker. Very good for Australia when we were not a big global power. It enabled development in Southeast Asia when they were not great global powers. I challenge that point, but my to be or not to be question, very big policy challenges, very hard for all political systems to deal with the challenges you're raising. Is the Chinese or the American political system better equipped to handle these big challenges?
I think you raised two questions, right? One is why Australia and China embrace free trade in the past few years. I think there's sometimes unilateral free trade may harm some countries. So for free trade to benefit all, everyone must believe in it. But now America, the US, is not believing it. They are fearing that free trade will take their advantages away by China. So to make a better life, we have first to believe. When everyone believes free trade is good, then it will be good. But when someone suspects that, it will be too bad. And this is the first question. The second question is whether China or the US are ready for the change. No, they are not prepared, and they are in the process of hunting for animals, hunting for the food. Who wins? We don't know. Every country wants to be the landlord. Every country wants to take the rabbit, to grab the rabbit. So this is a time of tensions. It's a period like the spring and autumn period, 春秋战国时代 in China 3,000 years ago. But at the end of the day, we will figure out the way. Who is the winner? Thank you.
Can I just say my comment? Trade is probably not a sufficient condition for everyone to benefit. It could be a necessary condition if you have some misconceptions. Please.
A question to Yongjin. It's very glad to see you here. Thank you very long time ago. I think that you raised very important questions about the nature of the digital market. The market is actually very much less to develop. So therefore, when you introduce the concept of externality into that market, which has some kind of I don't know the relationship, it's not a very competitive because the market is yet to be developed in a way. So we can call this a market imperfection rather than market failure. That's one thing. Another question is about the externality is being defined or measured by the discrepancy between the social cost and the social benefit vis-a-vis the project cost and the private benefit. So this definition, when you apply to the digital market and how modification, what sort of modification we need to make adjustment, especially when you refer to the non-rivalries of some kind of data use in a way. So basically the question is about whether we should have to rethink about the basic concept of a market failure or the externality in the context of the digital market. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for the two very important questions. I think I share with you the point that the data for market actually doesn't exist. Even though there are many markets in China, in the US, the transaction volume in China is approximately zero, especially for the non-personal data, the data generated in the production process. So there are very severe externalities. That is why the market doesn't exist. So this is the response for the first question. For the second question, I think market failure may be not appropriate word to describe what I'm saying. What I'm saying is actually any externality. Any human activity has externalities. But sometimes we can internalize. For example, for a whole country in a competitive market, we want to internalize. So we want to get rid of the monopoly power. But when the consumers are foreign consumers, when they reside in another country, we won't internalize because the negative externality arising from market power goes to the foreigners. We can think of a country as a monopoly firm. The maximized price is a monopoly price. To get to this point in a competitive market, there are many ways. One way is to use an export tax, or you can use an import tax. So in this way, the resources will be reallocated from the exporting sector to the importing sector. So the cost rises for the exporting sector. This is equivalent to raising the price to the monopoly price. And another way is to monopoly the export sector. This way has been used in the Soviet Union and also in China, and also in the US. In many other countries have used the monopoly to extract rent from the exporting sector. Okay, thank you for your question.
We'll just have last one.
Well, thank you, it's a very interesting topic. I got one question for Yongjin and one question for Yurou. Yongjin, you raised an interesting question that is every technology progress will bring challenges and opportunities to the economy. Now, in the new year, in digital time, AI technology brings a lot of changes. All the countries need to prepare for a new institutional arrangement for coping this challenging opportunity. Now, I would like to more asking for your view about in China current context. What are the most important institutional, setting in the near future to coping these issues? What are the really important type of things? Okay. My question to you was that if you're thinking about AI and digital type of things, which is reducing the marginal cost, sharing across region, then you won't expect that such a type of huge disparity between the traditional economic zone, along the coast versus in the middle. So how are you going to explain that type of disparity? Is that what they call about digital, how to say, digital gap or something there, or something else, which is create that policy? And also, you treat data as a factor, inputs, but what the cost of it? This is also related to Yongjin's point, which is, any type of this will be costly and then be having an additional cost. Probably it's not on the producer of the data, but on the society.
Okay, thank you, Shen, my rather academic brother. Yeah. I want to clarify your question. You're asking the challenges. China ready for this challenge. So China actually is using the trial and error strategy. Or in other words, we are using dynamic strategies. First, we see very slow economic growth in the past decade, as shown by Harry. So there are steady losses. But in the long run, the data sector become very large, become competitive in the global market. As now, I think we are seeing rising growth rate in the very near future. So from this sense, China has been very successful in this period. But I think there are some challenges or some pitfalls because economic growth can be sustained only when you have power, not only in economic sense, but also politically in the international market. So there are very I think they are dangerous in the military areas, which might destroy the fruit accumulated in the past years. So I'm not sure for the answer. I'm sorry, but thank you for the question.
So I quickly reply for Professor Shen's question. So if I practice to understand your question is that if we all use AI for different regions, then there will not be this kind of huge disparity between the regions, right? So my thinking is that because I'm using the data from only 2004 to 2022, so the AI development for that period may not mature enough to share in the region. But if I include more data to find out, maybe there is a kind of different result to something have. Yeah. The cost of another question. The cost of the data factor. Because the my course model doesn't include the market